All right. Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
So if you're one of those people who really like to get to the bottom of things,
Yeah.
We're going to help you with that.
Yeah.
Specifically for UPSC, prep.
Absolutely.
So today we have part one
of
our Daily UPSC Current Affairs series.
Mm-hmm.
And this is for April 4th, 2025.
Okay.
So, some of this stuff might be a little bit of a review for you guys.
Right.
But that's good.
Absolutely. Repetition is key.
Yeah, just think of it as like just a good refresher.
Absolutely.
And if you guys are liking this, please like and subscribe.
Yes, please.
All right, so today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at a bunch of different current events.
Right.
And trying to really distill out
Mm-hmm.
what's important, what you guys need to know for the exam.
Okay.
And it's kind of interesting because we're going to be jumping around a little bit from different geographical locations.
Yeah.
We have some science stuff. We've got some environmental stuff. We've got some geopolitics stuff.
Absolutely.
So it should be pretty interesting to see how these things are all interconnected.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see how everything kind of ties together.
Yeah.
When you start looking at the news from a global perspective.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So let's jump right in.
Yeah, let's start with something that's been in the news recently. The Katchatheevu Islands.
Okay.
The Tamil Nadu Assembly, they just passed a resolution urging the central government to get this island back from Sri Lanka.
Oh.
So for context, Katchatheevu is this small island in the Palk Strait.
Okay.
It's about 285 acres.
Uninhabited, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's uninhabited.
Okay.
It's located about 33 kilometers northeast of Rameswaram in India.
Okay.
And about 62 kilometers southwest of Jaffna in Sri Lanka.
Gotcha. So why is this little island such a big deal?
Well, for UPSC aspirants, it's all about its strategic location.
Okay.
It basically marks the maritime boundary between India and Sri Lanka. And the waters around it are prime fishing grounds, which is super important for the livelihood of Tamil Nadu fishermen.
Right.
There's also St. Anthony's Church on the island,
Right.
which is a major pilgrimage site for both Indians and Sri Lankans.
I see.
So you see this seemingly insignificant piece of land is actually a focal point for maritime law fishing rights, even potential security cooperation in the region.
Right. It's like a microcosm of all these bigger geopolitical issues.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so relevant for the UPSC exam. You need to be able to analyze how seemingly small things can become flashpoints in international relations.
Okay, let's talk about the ownership history because it sounds a little complicated.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tangled web. It was formed by a volcanic eruption a long time ago.
Yep.
Then it was under the Jaffna Kingdom. Then the Ramnad Zamindari. The Ramnad Zamindari, it was a big administrative division back then.
Oh, okay.
And even the British had a claim at one point.
Wow, so everyone wanted a piece of this island.
It seems so. But the real turning point for your exams is the 1974 Indo-Sri Lankan Maritime Boundary Agreement.
Okay.
This agreement officially established the International Maritime Boundary Line, or IMBL, between the two countries.
Right.
Which is based on UNCLS, the law of the sea,
Yes.
and the equidistance principle.
Right.
Basically trying to draw a fair line down the middle.
So they just draw a line right down the middle?
Well, not exactly. The 1974 agreement actually tweaked the equidistance line, placing Katchatheevu on the Sri Lankan side.
Interesting. So it wasn't just about this one island. They were trying to sort out the whole maritime boundary.
Yeah, they were defining exclusive economic zones, territorial waters, all sorts of things.
Right, which has major implications for who gets to use those resources.
Exactly.
And this isn't the first time India has had to deal with adjusting maritime boundaries.
You're right. There's the Sur Creek issue with Pakistan.
Right.
That's been going on forever.
A long time, yeah.
And then there was the case of Numor Island with Bangladesh, which thankfully got resolved in Bangladesh's favor in 2014.
Okay, so with Katchatheevu now under Sri Lankan control, what are the key issues that are still in play?
Well, the big one is Indian fishermen.
Yeah.
They often get caught fishing near the island. They stray across the IMBL,
Right.
which creates diplomatic tensions.
Right.
On the other hand, Indian pilgrims can still visit Katchatheevu for the St. Anthony's Church Festival,
Okay.
but they can't fish or live there.
Gotcha. So it's like this delicate balancing act between the two countries.
Absolutely. A very delicate one.
Okay, let's switch gears now and talk about something a bit more uplifting. Chandrayaan-3.
Oh, yeah.
Specifically, the success of its ChaSTE experiment.
The surface thermophysical experiment.
Right. What's so special about it?
Well, it's the first instrument to successfully penetrate the lunar soil and deploy a thermal probe.
Wow.
That's huge, especially when you consider that ESA's Philae lander on a comet and NASA's InSight HP-3 on Mars both failed to do the same.
Huh. Interesting. So this is a pretty big deal for lunar exploration then.
Absolutely. It gives us valuable data that could change how we approach lunar resources and even long-term human presence on the moon.
So how did ChaSTE manage to pull this off where others couldn't?
Well, the probe was part of the Vikram lander, which you remember made that amazing landing near the moon's south pole.
Right.
The probe has 10 temperature sensors along its tip spaced, just 1 centimeter apart.
Okay.
Unlike NASA's MOLE, which used a hammering mechanism to try and dig down.
Right.
ChaSTE used a rotation-based deployment system.
So it kind of like screwed its way into the ground.
Yeah, essentially. The motor rotated the probe downwards, and the increasing resistance from the lunar soil gave scientists data on how deep it was going.
I see.
It ended up reaching 10 centimeters deep and then monitored the temperature changes for about 10 days.
Cool. And what did this data tell us?
Well, the temperature readings from below the surface gave us a much better understanding of the moon's thermal properties.
Okay.
This data also supports the idea that there are water ice deposits in those permanently shadowed craters near the poles.
Which is crucial for future missions, right?
Exactly, for both crewed missions and for potentially using those resources.
It's amazing how ISRO keeps innovating.
Yeah, they've really made a name for themselves in space exploration.
It's quite a contrast to the challenges faced by those previous missions you mentioned.
Yeah, Philae had a rough landing, which messed up the probe deployment, and InSight's Mole got stuck because the Martian soil was unexpectedly loose.
It's crazy how different the conditions can be on these other planets.
Yeah, it makes it really hard to predict what will happen.
Okay, so from space, let's come back down to Earth and talk about a fascinating discovery in the Western Ghats.
Oh, right. The new damselfly species.
Exactly. It's called Euphaea wayanadensis.
Yeah, it was found in the Wayanad region of Kerala.
This brings the total number of odonid species in Kerala to 191.
And 223 in the Western Ghats as a whole.
Wow, that's incredible. The findings were published in the journal Entomon.
Right.
What's interesting is that this damselfly was first spotted back in 2013.
Near the Kalindi River.
Right. And then there were more sightings in other parts of Kerala and even Karnataka.
Yeah, on the western slopes of Coorg.
But it was initially misidentified as another species, right?
Yeah, they thought it was Euphaea pseudodispar.
Which is found in Maharashtra.
Mm-hmm.
So how did they finally figure out it was a new species?
They had to do a thorough morphological analysis.
Meaning?
Looking at its physical characteristics in detail.
Okay.
And they also did genetic analysis.
It's to confirm.
Yeah, and they found key differences.
Like what?
Well, for one, Euphaea wayanadensis has a longer black patch on its hind wing.
Okay.
The males also have broader and uninterrupted humeral and antihumeral strapes.
Gotcha.
And the structure of their male genital vesicle is unique.
Okay, so there were some subtle but important differences.
Exactly. Enough to classify it as a distinct species.
So where does this new damselfly like to hang out?
It prefers fast-flowing streams with rocky beds and lots of aquatic plants.
So like kind of like a clear mountain stream.
Yeah, pretty much. You'll find them in evergreen and semi-evergreen forests along the stream banks.
Okay.
And they're active year-round, except during the dry months of March and April.
Interesting. So they're pretty resilient.
Yeah, but they do have a limited distribution, which makes them potentially vulnerable to habitat loss and climate change.
Right. These little creatures can be very sensitive to environmental changes.
Absolutely, and that's why they're so important.
Right, because they can act as indicators of the health of the ecosystem.
Exactly.
Speaking of environmental concerns, let's shift our focus to a serious issue: fluoride contamination.
Right.
Reports indicate that there are alarmingly high levels of fluoride in over 120 villages in Uttar Pradesh.
It's affecting about 200,000 people.
That's a huge number.
It is.
And some of the levels are way above the safe limit.
Yeah, in some places they've recorded levels of 2 milligrams per liter or higher.
Which is significantly higher than the BIS limit of 1.5 milligrams per liter.
Exactly.
For those preparing for UPSC, it's important to remember that while small amounts of fluoride are good for teeth,
too much can be really harmful.
Yeah, it can lead to skeletal fluorosis, which affects the bones and joints, and dental fluorosis, which can cause severe tooth decay, especially in children.
That's scary.
Yeah.
And this isn't just limited to fluoride, is it?
No, unfortunately, groundwater contamination is a big problem in India.
What are some of the other culprits?
Well, arsenic is a major issue in states like West Bengal, Bihar, Jharkhand, and Uttar Pradesh.
Okay.
Then you've got uranium contamination in 12 states, including Punjab.
Wow.
And high iron levels are common in Rajasthan, Jharkhand, and Assam.
It's like a whole cocktail of contaminants.
It can be. And then there are other harmful substances like antimony, cadmium, copper, and barium.
So it's not just one thing we need to worry about.
No, it's a complex problem with multiple factors at play.
Are there any regions that are particularly prone to fluoride contamination?
Yeah, Rajasthan unfortunately has the highest levels in India.
Okay.
But Telangana, Western Andhra Pradesh, and Eastern Karnataka are also pretty badly affected.
Is there any pattern to it? Well, fluoride levels tend to be highest during the dry pre-monsoon months.
Interesting.
And generally speaking, arid regions in Western India have higher contamination compared to more humid areas.
That makes sense. Okay, let's move on to some good news from the world of wildlife conservation.
Okay, what's that?
There's been a rare sighting of a binturong.
Oh, wow.
It was caught on camera in the Narangwari Village Reserve Forest near Balbakram National Park.
That's fantastic.
So for those who don't know, can you tell us a bit about the binturong?
Sure. It's a fascinating creature. It's like a cat, but it's actually an omnivore.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it belongs to the civet family.
Mm.
It's the largest civet in India.
Wow.
They're also called bear cats.
Bear cats.
Yeah, because they kind of look like a mix of a bear and a cat.
I can see that.
Their scientific name is Arctictis binturong,
Okay.
and they're typically found in the dense forests of Southeast Asia.
So where exactly can you find them?
Their range stretches from Nepal, India, and Bhutan all the way down to Indonesia and Borneo.
Okay, so they're pretty widespread.
Yeah, within those specific forest habitats.
What do they look like?
They're pretty distinctive.
Like?
They have a head and body length of about 60 to 95 centimeters.
Okay.
And then their tail, which is prehensile,
Meme.
it can grasp things like a fifth hand.
Oh, cool.
That adds another 55 to 90 centimeters.
Oh, so they're pretty long.
Yeah, and they can weigh anywhere from 9 to 14 kilos.
So not exactly tiny.
No, not really. They have long, shaggy black fur, often with some white hairs mixed in.
Okay.
They've got these tufted ears and that awesome prehensile tail.
I bet that comes in handy for climbing.
Absolutely. They're mostly active at night and during twilight hours.
So nocturnal and crepuscular.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they spend most of their time in trees.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
They're like the ninjas of the forest.
You could say that they also have scent glands under their tail that they use to mark their territory.
Interesting. So how are they doing conservation-wise?
They're currently listed as vulnerable by the IUCN.
Okay.
They're also protected under Schedule 1 of India's Wildlife Protection Act. And they're listed in Appendix 3 of CITES, which regulates international trade.
So they're getting some much-needed protection.
Yeah, thankfully. Now, this particular binturong was spotted near Balbakram National Park.
Right. Can you tell us a bit about that park?
Sure. It's located in the South Garo Hills of Meghalaya,
Okay.
and it's nicknamed the Land of Perpetual Winds because of the strong winds that blow across the plateau.
Wow, that sounds intense.
It is. It's also close to the border with Bangladesh,
Okay.
and it became a national park in 1987.
Relatively recent.
Yeah, it's situated at about 3,000 feet above sea level
Okay.
and covers over 200 square kilometers.
That's a decent size.
Yeah, it's a pretty big park. It's
Yeah.
also got this deep gorge that people compare to the Grand Canyon.
No way.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. The local Garo tribe believes that the South Garo Hills are the final resting place of spirits.
Oh, wow. So it's a sacred place for them.
Exactly.
And it's home to a lot of unique plants and animals.
Yeah, it's incredibly biodiverse. You've got rare plants like pitcher plants, orchids, and drosera.
Wow.
And the animals include elephants, tigers, the only ape found in India, the hillock gibbon,
Okay.
plus deer hornbills and a whole bunch of other creatures.
It sounds like a magical place.
It really is.
All right, let's talk about some geological activity now. Specifically, the recent earthquake in Myanmar.
Right.
This event highlights the role of the Sagaing Fault. Can you explain what happened?
Sure. So the earthquake was caused by what we call strike-slip faulting along the Sagaing Fault.
Okay.
This fault is where the Indian plate and the Eurasian plate meet.
Right.
And they're kind of grinding past each other.
So like two tectonic plates sliding alongside each other.
Exactly.
And the friction from that movement causes earthquakes.
Right. The Indian plate is constantly pushing northward, which creates a lot of stress along the Sagaing Fault.
So it's like a slow motion collision that builds up pressure over time.
Yeah, and that pressure eventually gets released in the form of earthquakes.
So what exactly is the Sagaing Fault?
It's a major tectonic boundary that runs north-south through Myanmar.
Oh, okay.
It's actually one of the longest and most active strike-slip faults in the world.
Really?
Yeah, it stretches for about 1,500 kilometers.
Wow. That's huge.
It is. And because the Indian plate is constantly moving northward, the Sagaing Fault is constantly under stress.
Which means more earthquakes are likely in the future.
Unfortunately, yes. It's a seismically active region.
Now, I know there are different types of faults that can cause earthquakes.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give us a quick rundown?
Sure. So there are three main types: normal faults, reverse faults, and strike-slip faults.
Okay.
Normal faults occur at divergent plate boundaries.
Where the plates are moving apart.
Exactly, like the East African Rift Valley.
Right.
Reverse faults happen at convergent boundaries.
Where the plates are colliding.
Yeah, like the Himalayas.
Okay.
And strike-slip faults involve horizontal movement.
So the plates are sliding past each other.
Yes, like the San Andreas Fault in California.
Right. And the Sagaing Fault is a strike-slip fault.
Yes, specifically a right lateral strike-slip fault.
Meaning?
If you were standing on one side of the fault, the other side would appear to be moving to the right.
Okay. I think I get it. It's fascinating how all these geological forces shape our planet.
It really is. It's a constant process of change and upheaval.
Okay, let's move on to some news from the Indian Navy. The INS Tarkash recently intercepted a huge shipment of narcotics.
Yeah, over 2,500 kilograms of narcotics.
Wow, that's a major bust.
It is. It happened in the Western Indian Ocean.
Okay.
This really highlights the crucial role the Navy plays in keeping the region safe.
Absolutely.
But-
So tell us a bit more about INS Tarkash.
Well, it's a state-of-the-art stealth frigate.
What does that mean exactly?
It means it's designed to be hard to detect by radar.
Oh, cool.
It belongs to the Talwar class of guided missile frigates,
Okay.
which are actually modified versions of the Russian Krivak third-class frigates.
Gotcha.
INS Tarkash was built in Russia and commissioned into the Indian Navy in 2012.
So it's relatively new.
Yeah, it's part of the Western Fleet.
And it's designed to be stealthy.
Exactly. It has special technologies and a unique hull shape to minimize its radar signature.
Because like a ghost ship.
In a way.
How big is it?
It's pretty big, almost 125 meters long and over 15 meters wide.
Wow.
And it can reach speeds of 32 knots.
It's pretty fast.
Yeah, it's no slouch.
Yeah.
It's packed with advanced sensors and weapons.
So it can handle threats from the air,
Yeah.
the surface, and underwater.
Exactly. And it can even carry a helicopter.
Wow. What kind of weapons does it have?
Well, it's got the BrahMos missile system, which is supersonic.
Powerful stuff.
Yeah, very powerful. It also has advanced surface-to-air missiles, an upgraded 100-millimeter gun, a 30-millimeter close-in weapon system, torpedoes, rocket launchers.
So it's basically a floating arsenal.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And it has a sophisticated electronic warfare and communication suite.
So it's a very capable warship.
Absolutely.
All right, let's shift our focus to something completely different. Jupiter's atmosphere.
Okay.
New observations show that there's a lot of activity happening in and around the Great Red Spot.
Yeah, it's a very dynamic system.
So can you give us a quick refresher on what the Great Red Spot is?
Sure. It's a giant anticyclone, a high-pressure storm.
Okay.
It's located in Jupiter's southern hemisphere,
Right.
and it looks like this massive reddish spot.
Hence the name.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're not entirely sure why it's red, though.
Oh, interesting.
This storm extends way above Jupiter's main cloud layers.
How big is it?
It's the largest storm in the entire solar system.
Wow.
It's almost twice the size of Earth.
That's mind-boggling.
It is.
Yeah.
And the winds inside are incredible, around 270 miles per hour.
That's insane.
It is. But what's really amazing is that it's been raging for at least 150 years.
Wow. So how is it possible for a storm to last that long?
Well, Jupiter is a gas giant, so it doesn't have a solid surface like Earth.
Okay.
That means there's nothing to really slow the storm down.
So it just keeps going and going.
Pretty much. But it does change over time.
In what way?
Its shape size and even its color can fluctuate.
Fascinating. It's like a living, breathing entity.
Yeah. It's a powerful reminder of the forces at play in our solar system.
All right, finally, let's discuss a sensitive issue involving isolated communities.
Okay.
A U.S. national was recently arrested in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands
Right.
for allegedly entering the restricted area around North Sentinel Island.
That's a serious offense.
Absolutely. So could you give us some background on North Sentinel Island?
Sure. It's part of the Andaman Islands in the Bay of Bengal.
Okay.
It's located west of the main Andaman group.
Gotcha.
It's a fairly small island, about 8 kilometers long and 7 kilometers wide.
Okay.
And it's covered in dense rainforest.
What makes it so special?
It's home to the Sentinelese tribe.
Cool.
They're believed to be direct descendants of the first humans to leave Africa.
Wow.
And they've lived in isolation for thousands of years.
So they've had very little contact with the outside world.
Virtually none. They actively resist any attempts at contact.
And that's why there are restrictions in place.
Exactly. Indian law prohibits approaching the island closer than 5 nautical miles.
To protect them.
Yes, they're extremely vulnerable to diseases that they have no immunity to.
Right. So how many Sentinelese are there?
It's hard to say for sure.
Okay.
Estimates range from 80 to 150 individuals.
But it could be more?
Possibly. Some estimates go as high as 500.
So it's a very small and vulnerable population.
Exactly.
And it's crucial that we respect their isolation.
Absolutely. Any attempts to contact them could be disastrous.
Okay, last but not least, let's talk about a fascinating archaeological discovery.
What's that?
A Roman aqueduct was recently uncovered beneath the Rusofensy Manor in Bratislava, Slovakia.
Oh, wow.
So can you give us a quick explanation of what an aqueduct is?
Sure. An aqueduct is basically a channel for transporting water.
Like a water pipeline?
Yeah, kind of.
Right.
The term comes from Latin, and it means to lead water.
Okay.
In modern times, it can refer to pipes, dishes, canals, tunnels, even bridges that carry water.
Right.
But in ancient times, they were mostly used for irrigation.
So like bringing water to crops.
Exactly. Civilizations like the Indians, Persians, Assyrians, and Egyptians all used aqueducts.
But the Romans were the real masters of aqueduct construction.
You could say that they built this incredibly sophisticated system to supply Rome with water.
Back in ancient times.
Yeah, between 312 BCE and 230 CE.
And these aqueducts were essential for the growth of cities, right?
Absolutely. They allowed cities to flourish in areas where water was scarce.
And the concept is still used today.
Oh, yeah. The Central Arizona Project Aqueduct in the U.S. is the longest modern aqueduct.
Amazing how these ancient ideas are still relevant today.
It really is a testament to human ingenuity.
So that brings us to the end of part 1 of our April 4th, 2025 Daily UPSC Current Affairs Deep Dive.
Wow, we covered a lot of ground.
We did. We talked about everything from territorial disputes to scientific breakthroughs to environmental challenges and even ancient history.
It's all connected.
It really is. And it's important for you as UPSC aspirants to see those connections.
Absolutely.
Like how the Katchatheevu issue relates to India's overall maritime strategy.
Right.
Or how the success of Chandrayaan-3 reflects India's growing technological prowess.
Is it-
So here's a thought-provoking question for you to consider.
Okay.
Given the ongoing Katchatheevu discussions, other maritime boundary issues, and the increasing importance of exclusive economic zones, what kind of long-term strategies should India adopt to balance its national security, economic interests, and international relations in the Indian Ocean region?
That's a great question. It's a complex issue with no easy answers.
Exactly. It requires careful consideration and analysis.
And that's what we're here to help you with.
Absolutely. So stay tuned for part 2, where we'll delve even deeper into the current affairs that matter.
And don't forget to like and subscribe if you're finding this helpful.
We'll see you in part 2.
See you there.
Bye.